Industrial areas are the economic backbones of cities, many of which tend to provide workplaces for a large portion of the city's population. And after centuries of upgrades and improvisation since the first industrial revolution in the 1700s, industrial workers still face a pretty bad working environment, even in countries that are considered developed nations, mostly in the design of industrial neighborhoods and buildings. They can be good and welcoming to workers, but they aren't. The hostility that I want to mention in this video is the car-centricity and people-unfriendly designs of industrial areas across Canada and the US. Truly, it is incredibly hard, if not impossible, to find industrial neighborhoods or sites that provide safe and comfortable pedestrian networks here in the continent. But why do industrial districts have to be attractive and good-looking? No one lives there anyways, so why bother? Okay, even when no one lives there, most people spend from 1/3 to half of their days at these locations because it is their work location. Therefore, a good and welcoming design for industrial neighborhoods will enhance people's moods about their jobs, increase job satisfaction, create connectivity to their needed amenities while on the clock, and improve the mental and physical health. Industrial sectors often provide the workforce of anywhere from 15% to 30% of a city's population. Imagine if 30% of your city's population have to work in ugly and inaccessible areas that are not human-centric and can harm their health. What could happen? That's pretty depressing, hey? Designs do influence people's well-being in a number of ways, not just their task and the office that they work in. Since industrial neighborhoods often carry a lot of large trucks and vehicles, the noise and air pollution from these vehicles will be a substantial problem for commuters and outdoor workers. This, in combination with the levels of noises and pollution that industrial buildings, that factories or elevators emit, yes, that's called an elevator, will create a very unsafe and unpleasant environment to which calling it poisoning the surrounding air and tearing one's ear apart can be an understatement. The toxic emissions such as CO2, CO, or NO2 resulted in the decreased quality of life and even death due to the respiratory diseases in many countries. Car-centric industrial neighborhoods often result in the unhealthy habits of commuting. Car commutes decrease job and life satisfaction, and I talked about this in a previous video. It also prevents people from participating in active exercises while on their way to work, which prevents them from reaching a relaxing and productive readiness for their work. The dominance of automobiles as a mode of travel also discourage physical activities, and people are left with no choices but to drive to work in these areas. And unfortunately, this will increase the risk of obesity, which accounts for 5% of mortality. Designs influence habits, and habits shape the overall physical health of the population. The overexposition to excessive noises and pollution can also cause sensory issues and discomfort, which can be a #1 mental health concern, but I'm surprised that no one has talked about it. Furthermore, the large gaps between buildings decrease the rate of social cohesion between people. Unsafe street designs that prioritize car traffic can cause accidents. And while we talked a lot about physical damages, those designs causing the accidents can be triggering for people with PTSD or cause fear among the general population when reaching the area. The absence of lighting infrastructures can decrease the perceived level of safety, and an overexposed level of light can cause overstimulation for people and significantly contribute to light pollution, which is already a huge issue in urban areas. So, given all the impacts of designs, what elements of industrial neighborhoods can make it be human-centric and welcoming to people? Connectivity seems to be a major one, especially for non-automobile commuters. Industrial areas should be serviced by frequent transit and sometimes can be substantial infrastructures like heavy rail or commuter rail. Bus stops should be provided with scheduled information and shelters to allow a safe and comfortable waiting environment. And furthermore, they should also provide direct connections to buildings nearby without being interfered by cars or truck routes. Transit is just one puzzle piece that fulfills the connectivity, and active transportation modes fulfill the other. Safe bike infrastructures that are separated from the cars and trucks routes, bike parking infrastructures that are close to the building front doors or at major transit stops to allow multimodal transit, and sidewalks that are wide enough to allow 2 wheelchairs to pass each other. Accessible curb cuts with tactile strips safe crosswalks with ramps. You can name all of these elements, and they are necessary to provide meaningful, safe, and accessible connection for non-automobile commuters and visitors to industrial neighborhoods, and not just checklisted infrastructures to satisfy inclusive design guidelines and make people feel insulted when using it. Besides accessibility, transit, and mobility, the design of industrial areas is also another vital factor making them human-centric. There are ways that designs and architecture influence our feelings and even well-being. A properly designed place is a great place that welcomes people, adapts to future challenges of urban development, and improves the living quality and experiences of the visitors and workers who spend most of their time in these areas. There must be tree lines and greenery to ensure shading and heat mitigation. The consideration for buffer between buildings and roads should be well considered. A good industrial neighborhood design will not expose all the negative perceptions to the people coming to the area when there is inclusion of those elements that I mentioned to make people feel belonged in the area as their first impression. Okay, enough about what makes industrial designs good. Let's take a look at how you're welcomed as someone who doesn't travel to the industrial neighborhoods by car. There are no sidewalks, no bike paths, just a blank and white road with multiple entrance and exiting points for cars into the businesses. You are generally stranded when you get off here using public transit, unless you want to enjoy an unpleasant walk on patches of grass or at the edge of the roads. The infrastructure is absolutely absent, resulting in a disconnection for able-bodied persons and obviously an uphill challenge for people with disabilities. The street design also appears to be too dangerous for biking, as the large roads make drivers feel comfortable driving at high speed, and cyclists constantly have to try their best to bike frantically to keep up with the pace of traffic, or they might be run over. There's often lots of dust on the roads, and there are very few trees or shades that can allow pedestrians or cyclists to seek shelter from wind, sun, or snow. The buildings feel like giant piles of concrete or steel, and the large gaps between the buildings reserved for cars make the walking experience even more miserable. The large gaps between buildings also mean the wind can just blow through the area frantically, further contributing to the terrible experiences outside of a sealed metal box. Of course, nobody would want to spend a long time in such areas, and the infrequent transit services really gatekeeps a lot of employment opportunities to people. Many industrial areas don't have good transit services, usually every 30 minutes or hourly service, and may involve a transfer, which already filled transit riders and resulting in buses often sit empty and dead. And for those who have to work in these areas, they are left with no choice but to drive to work and endure 8 hours in a terribly designed, built environment, which is deteriorating their health, for sure. Designs and road network like these are just depressing to say the least. They don't look attractive for businesses to open, as they cannot attract people to come, on top of the inaccessible transit or other modes of transportation is to cars. All of these flaws make industrial neighborhoods ugly, inaccessible, and hostile to people. There are many ways that these designs can be redesigned for the better, and there are actual initiatives that are starting in so many cities already. This industrial neighborhood has a bike parking station above the train station, allowing people to cycle to and from the station to their workplaces. This is a form of park and ride that includes different modes of transportation, and you should visit my park and ride video to learn more about that. There are also docking stations for shared bikes and shared scooters, allowing micromobility and last mile commuting options. In many streets and roads, there are greeneries and buffers that make you feel like it is absolutely not an industrial area at all. The building is blended behind the fence with trees, sheltering a lot of dust and dirt. The sidewalks are wide enough for 2 people to pass each other, and there can be dedicated paths for bikes and pedestrians. And this is a well-protected 2-way bike lane that leads to a train station, and a park for workers to enjoy a quick walk or a peaceful lunch.
Wait, you're showing examples from Europe and Asia. Show me one from North America that is good.
Okay, there are some good examples, okay? Look at this wide, multi-use path. It is 3 meters wide, good for 2 wheelchairs to easily bypass each other. Look at this train station with abundant bike parking. It is not any European city. It is Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Look at this dedicated and protected bike path. No, it is not Oulu, Finland. It is Winnipeg, Manitoba. I know that these designs are mediocre compared to those European designs. However, they are good starting points. And another starting point that can derive all of these changes are the policies for these changes to happen, where they determine the standards and required development for such infrastructure. Many cities have adjusted their zoning bylaws to allow business activities within light industrial areas and also amended their active transportation plans to include active transportation infrastructure, creating connectivity to and within industrial areas. Though changes are coming very slowly, they are important for the future improvement of the infrastructure. I also hope to see more changes to the shipping industry and loading areas of buildings, which includes minimum parking requirements. These requirements are the reason why buildings are inaccessible from the main streets. It is also important that there are proper trip ending facilities like bike racks or separate doors to allow a separate and safe entrance for bikes and pedestrians that is not interfering with cars and trucks routes entering parking lots and loading zones. Some industrial neighborhoods also have back alleys, and these can and should be utilized as connecting pathways for pedestrians and bikes. Bus stops should not just be a concrete bulb with nothing connecting to it. There needs to be a proper connection for passengers reaching the bus stop or walking to their final destination, because transit coverage is nothing without connectivity and accessibility. And for winter cities, I cannot stress this enough. Snow clearance and maintenance can be, should be, and must be a priority. All of those good things mentioned above is nothing in the winter if the people who don't drive to these neighborhoods have to suffer a hostile, inaccessible, and unsafe commuting condition. Call me crazy or entitled for this, but I believe multi-use pathways deserve the same priority as highways. So, in the end, industrial areas are economic engines of cities, and given the number of jobs concentrated in these areas, their designs must be welcoming and accessible to make people feel happy about their job, increasing their satisfaction and decreasing the risk of mental health issues. Great designs will also enhance economic development and create equity for all members of society. And if you have any stories about good industrial designs, please comment down below. Bye for now, and I will see you in the next videos. In case you didn't know, my channel has super likes and members enabled. Join my channel to enjoy some exclusive updates on my future videos and participate in the brainstorming or scripting of the videos. I also would like to thank all supporters from Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee who helped keep this channel going. I appreciate any amount that you chip in, as they do help cover some expenses for these videos. See you soon!